camera and off microphone so that people don't hear the tapping of the keys.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi there, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello there. Hi, Sarah.
So here we are. And who else is
Tonight we're
Mary Catherine.
Tonight we're going to talk about the gut. Amen.
The guts.
Well, how you're supposed to do it now.
Yeah.
Okay. So let everybody in.
Oh,
Thanks. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, these 10.
here we are.
Hi, welcome everybody. This is Helene and I have the honor of being the host this evening. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
So we're the host tonight.
The co-host.
The host with the hostess and host with the most and mostest.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So nice to see your faces.
yes, two of our favorite people. So where is everybody else? Is everybody else online? Did we let anybody else in?
I don't know. We are letting them in, but
Oh,
Mary Catherine was. I don't see her.
no, she's there. You know what? Everybody's muted.
Is that what it
Yes,
is?
I think so. But we don't see anybody. Anyway, so Mynoo's going to be starting momentarily.
We are
And,
we're live on Facebook now.
Oh,
Okay, great. So we're not seeing everybody. How do we see everybody? We have a gallery.
yeah.
Anyway,
Anyhow, it sounds like it's going to be a great session today. And it's about the gut disconnect. So,
yeah, everybody's always talking about how we connect, how it's so important to trust your gut and connect with your gut. And tonight, Mynoo's going to start the first of a series about the disconnect that is happening in the gut and how we can improve that and help us in our lives on many levels, especially with our health. So,
no.
hi. So we're very excited, happy to be here. And it's always an honor to guest host for Mynoo.
And here is Mynoo.
Here we go.
Hello. Indeed. Thank you for hosting, and I'm looking forward to this session. It's quite an important one. So David and Helene, you represent an archetype of humans. So if there are any particular questions that come to you that you would like to ask, you can go ahead and interrupt it, and I'll bring you in at the appropriate time. And let's begin.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, we now have a 3-part series on the gut. And I've heard the phrase, the gut connection. So it was quite surprising that the first in this series is about the gut disconnection. I was excited about it because, these sessions, I literally just allow myself to be present, and I do a little bit of presencing the topic that the evening before I'm due to transmit it. So I was like literally awestruck with the stuff that came out and what's possible once we are able to understand and reestablish that connection within our gut again. But I also saw how delicate the terrain is that can have such a huge impact on the gut, and what it causes when we get disconnected from it. So today we're going to talk about the 4 primary culprits that bring about that gut disconnection. And as a result of that, it makes our human terrain a bedrock of a whole variety of diseases, disruptions that cause widespread destruction. Some that is visible, some that becomes like a ticking time bomb, and shows up in a whole variety of pretty acute and sometimes quite discomforting chronic conditions. So as I go through, I'll be guided on supporting each of us on how we diagnose which of these culprits is predominantly active with us. And the good news is that whilst there are 4 culprits, there will be one of these that will be the predominant one for each of us. And it will be different. So once you understand the 4 and you understand how you're going to diagnose that for yourself, you can actually transform that disconnection into having that full-on connection. And the next 2 sessions on the gut will talk about some specific aspects of the gut connection itself. So let's look at the first one, the first culprit. The first culprit is really a full spectrum understanding of what is the gut. So gut is a part of, physiologically, physically, gut is a part of this very big muscle that we have in our system that forms the digestive system. The digestive system is one big long muscle, and the gut is physiologically is a muscle. And it's made in a particular way and it has a particular function, but it really does operate like any muscle. With peristalsis, contractions, relaxations, it requires to be toned and all of that. Now, why is this the first culprit? It is a culprit because we take it for granted that it is a physiological, it's a physiological object that we have in our bodies. And yeah, it has a function and all of that. But actually, the gut is it's a full spectrum being. Sure, it's a physical muscle, but it is a full spectrum being. In that it has, physiologically, it has a construct. You can touch and feel it, and it has aspects of it that are very specifically constructed or disrupted based on our mental well-being. There are aspects of it that are very specifically impacted based on our emotional conditions. And there are aspects of it that also are impacted by our connection to the spirit of ourselves. Aspects that are impacted in the social dynamics that we choose to operate with, and aspects that are impacted directly by the environment as well. So it is a full spectrum construction. For the gut to be in a state of full holistic well-being, what is called for is to be thriving on all of the 6 cylinders: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. Let's take each one in turn. Physiologically, it's a muscle. And it's a muscle that every muscle requires to be toned. And when you don't tone it, the muscle becomes lethargic. And why is it important for the muscles to be toned? What gives us our form is our skeletal structure. And then there are so many other aspects, so many other systems, from capillaries to cartilages, the connective tissue, and various organ systems that exist in our body that are held in place by the toning of our muscles. We have muscles that we can see externally, and there are muscles that exist internally, like the digestive system, or the heart is also considered to be a muscle. So a muscle requires to be toned. And when it is toned, and the way the muscle operates, a healthy muscle requires a good level of hydration, not overhydration, but good level of hydration. It has a whole variety of nutritional requirements as well. There are minerals, there are vitamins, there's protein, there's carbs, and they're all in a particular proportion. And whilst there are various theories of how much you should have, what is right for you is what you know is right for you. You will always have. So, I use your body, use your own muscles as a way of indicating to you whether what you are having, what you're eating on your plate, what choices you're making in terms of, your own supplements and other stuff that you might ingest. If your body is in an unequivocal flow of yumminess, it's actually going to be beautiful. It's going to be lovely for you. And if your body has any form of ickiness in it, your muscles are the first ones. When I say connect into an unequivocal form of yumminess, your body is your indicator. It's the muscles of your body that give you that indication. So that particular type of food is not going to be that great for you, but you can choose that. So physically, it's important to find ways in which you tone your muscle, which includes the gut. The gut can be toned by, eating healthy stuff. So the peristalsis is exact. Also through various forms of stretches that enable your abdomen, your pelvic floor, your back muscles, all of those to be toned, and that supports the gut. Because after all, it is under constant tension of gravity. So I'm not here to talk about toning your muscles. I'm not even the best role model for that. It is something that I'm literally in kindergarten and working my way up in terms of toning my muscles.
I like the way you were talking about stretching, because I don't know if you know, but I'm very, very big component of stretching, and as a form of toning, stretching and flexing throughout the whole day, and so I'm happy you mentioned that.
Yeah. I mean, the gut naturally does that in its peristalsis, and it can be overactive peristalsis wise, and that doesn't help either. But if you actually allow yourself to work with your different muscle groups through stretching, then you'll find that all the muscles actually are, go through the exact rhythm of peristalsis that is right for them. And stretching is a very good access for that. Now, mentally, let's look at the gut spectrum, and in terms of what constitutes the gut mentally, our thoughts. I know I have certainly been in this situation, and there are many that I come across who talk about being in the space where they overthink, and they go into a spin and they can't get out of, and they start feeling that queasiness in their gut. So overthinking, whilst it has nothing to do with physiological stuff, but really what overthinking does is it starts to erode any belief systems that you may have. And it's a set of our beliefs that give us our experience of life. When we start overthinking, we become so engrossed and ingrained in the content of that overthinking that it starts to multiply. Because really, when overthinking sets in, what are you overthinking? If you were to focus on facts, you just naturally don't overthink facts. But the moment you make a fact have meaning, now the overthinking catalyst has been added. And that reaction of catalyzing what has just been introduced in the form of meaning then multiplies, and meaning leads to meaning, leads to meaning, leads to meaning, and you just start overthinking. And it is this overthinking that disconnects you from whatever else might be going on, and you become completely not just overwhelmed, but taken over by this overthinking. So the gut disconnection begins, it's triggered with the first time you give meaning to any fact that might have occurred. So one of the ways of diagnosing that gut disconnection is the extent to which you might be sliding into overthinking. And remember, overthinking is not always bad thoughts. It may even be simply being awestruck, and like really going overboard about that even. And I totally was completely awestruck when I went to Bali and I was discovering these new things, because I was so mental throughout my life, to then suddenly see that there is depth and breadth to everything and everyone. Even that puts us into our heads, and we levitate away from that gut connection. And those butterflies in your tummy and all of that are great to an extent, but if it becomes too much, it becomes extremely uncomfortable. And really, it is because that overthinking disconnects you from a set of core beliefs that bring about a sense of stability in you. And that's why overthinking can become a culprit.
When you say overthinking too, you're including like worrying a lot about things.
It could be. It could be.
May not even happen, or may not even happen in the future, but over creates the taking you out of your center and off of your balance that you really need to be in every moment. Your mind and your body need to be in balance in every moment.
It is about worrying, and actually balance is something that we're going to talk about another culprit very soon. This whole quest for balance is a major culprit, because balance keeps you out of balance. Just imagine standing on a seesaw, and attempting to balance. You're like this all the time, right? Whereas really what's called for is harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you're in a state of harmony, there is an isness to harmony. There is a quest to balance, which actually reinforces the belief that you are out of balance. And so balance is anything that you proclaim as as something that doesn't exist. I'm out of balance, so I must have balance. Anything that you can attach, I need to do this, or it should be done this way. They are all a little triggers that can, because they're meaning-based judgments, proclamations. There is no fact to them. They're just meanings we might have given to various things that occurred or didn't occur in a particular way, and then they multiply. So one of the ways to diagnose for yourself are your meaning words that are important to you. What are the things that you believe need to be a certain way? What are the things you believe should be a certain way? What are your should nots? Just simply acknowledging them, honors the fact that you've lived your life with these premises. But what happens then is that when something isn't that way, because remember, take nothing for granted, it's the modus operandi. Unknown is the known. Certain uncertainty is what is certain. So when you get overly attached to any particular need or must or have or should nots, you're setting yourself up for the gut disconnection. Or it should,
So funny,
she shouldn't have spoken this way. Or yes, David, you're saying?
there's an expression, stick to the facts. You know?
Yes. So, return to facts is a way of turning that around. Now let's look at emotional. We talk about emotional triggers. They're not there's nothing called an emotional trigger. There is a mental trigger. Emotions are something that you feel when you get triggered. Now, what happens is the gut is such an amazing muscle organ. Not only does it help you complete the digestion process of what you eat, what you ingest, it also digests emotional distress. It is very specifically designed for that. The gut is not only a third brain, it is also connected to every organ in your body by the virtue of being the third brain. Different sections of the gut connect to different organs. And as Louise Hay talked about in Heal Yourself booklet, which is a Bible for so many of us, she talks about every organ is impacted by an emotion. So your gut, when you understand that, then there's a whole collection of emotions that can destabilize the gut, that can take harmony away from the gut. But the gut is the one that is a part of the solution. It can digest emotions. It is designed to do that. And when and this is one of the reasons why I talk about use the power tool of acknowledgement, where you acknowledge fully all that has occurred without overlooking anything. I'm not one for positive incantations. I am one for, once you've acknowledged everything, look and find what is present that is making your heart sing, because that is real. It's not something that you have to brainwash yourself into thinking or believing, because there is far more positive than there is negative in the world, regardless of whatever may be occurring. In any catastrophic situation, you will always find something or the other that is actually positive. But if you ignore the catastrophe that is impacting you, where does it go and live? Where does it sit? Which part of your body does it hamper? Your gut. It disconnects you from your gut. It disconnects the gut from being able to service and serve this whole human terrain. It takes away a very big aspect of the human miracle that has been so perfectly created by our Creator. Spiritual. Spiritual to me is a connection to the spirit of you. And when you get reconnected to the spirit of you, you connect to the spiritedness of everyone and everything. And that is what brings an end to duality. That literally is, reconnecting you to the remembrance that we are all one. That is really what spiritual is for me. And when we bring in duality, and what gets started is that disconnection from the gut. Duality is the culprit. And it's really to do with the spiritual aspect of full spectrum. well-being of the gut. When you see yourself as distinct from the air you breathe or the soil you walk on, you're bringing about that disconnect from the spirit of you. And that has a direct impact on the spiritedness of you. You know, when you have a queasy gut, you don't really feel that spirited. It has a direct impact. If you have a constipation, the same thing. It's as if it blocks you up. And why does the gut have such an impact? Because it is connected to every system of your body, every system, organ system, life force systems, flow systems, every system. So making sure that you remain connected to the spirit of you calls for, we were talking about balance and harmony, actually immediately puts you in a state of harmony. Even if you might have a whole variety of other ailments going on, but when you have that inner state of harmony, you're actually lifting some load from your cells and your tissues. And remember, vast majority of your cells are actually very young. So they can start to take over and your body starts to operate as a human miracle, and it starts to autocorrect. Being disconnected from the spirit of you is like a domino that makes you feel bad. So it's impacting you emotionally. And you then start to see and give meaning to various things that occurred or didn't occur. And that overthinking cycle begins, and you're like destabilized. Some of your core beliefs start to shatter. Now, all of this has a direct impact on your physiology because of the disconnection with the gut. Social dynamics. Our social dynamics, you know, like some people make us feel so good. We feel very flowing. Everything is really perfect. There are others where we feel that knot building up. We don't, literally, those are the phrases we use. Well, because that's exactly what's happening. The moment you disconnect from the gut isn't meant to be knotted. But we feel that. Where is that knot? It actually isn't in the small intestine or your stomach or anywhere else. It is knotted because there are sections of the gut that start to become tight. And because the gut is connected to different parts of your body, depending on what emotion you're experiencing, that part of the gut starts to tighten. And when it is tightening, there's a part of your gut that is not engaged in peristalsis. It starts to create that bunging up or blocking up of other parts of the gut because the flow isn't happening. And you go out of flow. Social dynamics creates that knot, or it unknots, depending on what is going on with you and how you choose to conduct yourself. So if you're about to go into a social situation and you're feeling uncomfortable, best to process it before you go into that situation. Now, it may not be all, how do I process it? By acknowledging, doesn't feel good. I'm feeling that knot in my tummy. I've got a bad taste that's about this. Something doesn't quite smell right. I get that. Acknowledge, nothing to do. You don't need to do anything but acknowledge fully. Once you've acknowledged fully, all parts of your body actually are in harmony to wherever you are at. And you can then declare, okay, whatever it is, I get all of that. I unconditionally accept what is. And now let's see where we go from here.
So you become spiritually guided at that moment when you acknowledge the what's going on before you go into a situation, or before you go into a meeting, or if you're having a problem with who you're dealing with, or whatever the circumstances are. You're actually, the acknowledgement is actually an opening the door for spirit to guide you through.
So the acknowledgement isn't opening the door, David. It's a very, very good point that you brought up because it allows me to clarify this nuance. What acknowledgement does is it takes away the blockages. It's as if the door is there, you want to open it so you can go across the threshold, but there's a box here and there's a bottle there and there's various things that are there around and you can't quite get to the door. And as a result, whilst you do want to get out of this situation or this particular place, you're not able to go get to the door. So acknowledgement removes those things. What opens the door is once all of those are removed and you say, okay, I declare, I unconditionally accept all that is, the door opens. That's that's that magic phrase, you know, open sim sim as in one of those childhood fables. Yeah, that is the magic phrase. But if you rush and say, oh, I unconditionally accept what is, you'll be stumbling and falling over yourself. Without the acknowledgement, the door may open, but you still won't be able to get there. The frustrations will be greatly accentuated. So acknowledgement is a very, very important power tool. That's what acknowledgement does. But thank you for bringing that up because that was a very important clarification. Now, there may be in social dynamics, you're in the middle of it. Everything is going really well. And then suddenly, boom, a curveball hits. And this person who you thought was a certain way is now suddenly behaving in a very different way. And you're in the midst of it and you can't quite get out of that. It can happen. And your gut will be the first one to start reacting. Now, why does it do that? Because you can, of course, use a natural break as a very good reason why you want to step away from the situation. That's why the gut is the one that starts to act up. We don't necessarily take the cue at the time, you know, but you can now. The moment discomfort comes in, you will notice. Now, as I was preparing for this session, you know, I literally went back to various moments of discomfort in my life, and I've found everywhere, the gut is the first one to make it known. And remember, our physical body is such a small part of the fullness of our presence. And that applies not only to us, but to others as well. You know, so here comes trouble. Before you've even seen the person, you can feel the vibe that there's some trouble coming brewing. Well, that's because it's there in the terrain. And now you can just go into acknowledging in this stuff. You don't even have to talk aloud. You'll be processing it in your head. You can have your smile and be fully present and acknowledging how you're feeling until you get to a point where in your mind you can say, okay, I unconditionally accept all that is. And then suddenly it's as if your wings open up. And now you can choose to take off or experience the presence of your wings and then see what emerges from there but your social dynamics will transform. So often.
Well, that's like a great mantra then for almost anything that's happening in your life. I unconditionally accept all that. Yeah.
Always precede it with acknowledgement before you make that declaration, because otherwise your brain gets used to, it's a lie. You actually don't unconditionally accept it. The key word is not I accept everything. No, it is I unconditionally accept all that is. I run these mentoring sessions with my business collective. And we do this work even if in the context of business, when people have their ups and downs and stuff. There's so many times they'll say, okay, I get it. Okay, I just completely accept all that has happened. Let's move forward. Or they might even say, okay, unconditionally, that's all fine. And I say, okay, do you unconditionally accept all that is? And then it stops them. How can I unconditionally accept? You know, this is like, you know, here's someone who's proactively gone and sabotaged our product, bringing the product to market strategy. How can I unconditionally accept that? Well, so, okay, then in that case, there's some more to acknowledge. I don't make them go wrong. I don't say there's anything wrong in it. It is correct. You're really feeling it in you when something has been, someone has wronged you in such a way. But really, where is that holding on to that you have been wronged in a big way? Where is it being held? It is a gut disconnection. So it's actually really hampering such a big part of you. When you have a gut disconnection, any part of the gut that is disconnected, because it directly impacts, it's directly connected to various organs. Remember, the gut, it is through the gut that the nutrients are absorbed. Your stomach, your large intestine, small intestine, they're all just, breaking down and digesting what you have ingested. The absorption and excretion occurs in the gut. So absorption of nutrients is delivered to the different organs through the gut. So the gut disconnection has far more profound, far-reaching effects than we realize. And that's why the first in this 3-part series is about the gut disconnection. I always get carried away. We are more than half an hour into the first culprit still. Well, it's full spectrum. So, our environment, environment pollutants, of course, but there are energetic pollutants and there are physical pollutants. And there is that toxic relationships are also pollutants. They also have a direct impact on triggering that disconnect. Sometimes it's simply chemicals that is bringing about that disconnect. And, for that, you'll have to work with a physiological solution. Like I was in Delhi a few days ago, and it's been the hottest summer from the time that records began, even in Delhi. It was like 52 degrees centigrade. You'll have to translate what that is, but 100 centigrade is a boiling point of water. A lot of what we cook on our pans is done at 52 degrees centigrade. So that was the temperature outside, right? And combined with that, some of the pollution that was there in the air as well meant that it was very difficult to walk outside. And of course, I had my N95 mask, so I was protecting myself with that. It was extremely difficult to walk in that heat with the mask. Even if it was just for, like 2 or 3 minutes even, was really tough. So the environment, there was a physiological environment that was there. And I was actually fine, but my loved ones were very anxious. I'm putting that anxiousness into my field with great love and care. That also impacts our environment, and that triggers that gut disconnection. So, always look at the first set of culprits could be anywhere in this full spectra. Treat your gut as this full spectrum being. The second culprit is to do with the vibrations of your terrain. I started talking about the vibrations environmentally. The vibrations of your terrain. So there I am in Delhi. And it is, 48, 50, 52 degrees centigrade, really, really hot, scorching sunlight, and a strong wind, which of course doesn't feel like a breeze because the heat is so strong. So it's like this hot air, blowing as well. So, okay, that's just so. Factually, that is just so. There's nothing good or bad or anything about it. It feels uncomfortable, but that's just so. What impacts the vibrations of my terrain are, my loved ones, messaging me, contacting me, telling me all sorts of things that, or sending me links of what it's doing to people and what might happen. And they're only doing it because they just care about me. It's like, get out of there as soon as you can, only be, but anyway, hey, God knows how many hundreds of millions of people live there in Delhi. I mean, I am as human as anybody else. So if so many others can live there, so can I be there for a few days. But that was affecting the vibrations of my terrain. So I had to proactively work on clearing out my terrain and allowing myself to receive their love and care and ground out their worry energy or their anxiety energies, or their should and should not. You should never have gone there. You should have just got out of the airport, had your meetings at the airport and flown out of there. Well, I was just literally, there's, okay, everyone can have a point of view, and they're free to have that. I could give meaning to it, that look at them, they've done so much of my work. They've heard me talk about don't put your worry into anybody else. And there they are doing exactly that with me. I could give meaning to that. But I just allowed myself to observe whatever was occurring, use the power tool of acknowledgement, knowing that, okay, my terrain is loaded right now, but I'm not going to shift the vibrations of my terrain. So being very aware of the vibrations of your terrain. You remember your terrain externally and internally. The gut digests emotional distress. So to truly transform your internal terrain, here's an exercise that I did, which is I literally went back. You heard me say this many times. I literally went back, the last 5 years. Were there moments of emotional distress? Because they will still be existing in the form of that emotional distress, blocking certain aspects of my gut. And all there is to do is you don't go back to that situation. You just simply acknowledge all that occurred, get yourself to a point where you can say, okay, that happened, didn't feel that great, and I had to just move forward, and it was so tough, and whatever it might be, I just unconditionally accept all that is, look at another one. Is there a learning from that experience? Digest.
Also, not to buy into the fear of others that are in your environment.
Yeah.
When you do that, that will throw things off and throw you out of balance.
Yeah,
when you
I think the thing that I would say, David, really is, we're so used to using the term balance. We just use it without even thinking. Like you use balance 3 times, but you probably weren't even aware that you were using it. It
Maybe
keeps
I'm out of balance.
Yeah, immediately triggers out of balance, immediately triggers that disconnect. Okay? And so find ways in which you can integrate harmony with harmony, even in your own dialogues. It'll make such a big difference. A harmonious terrain, when you are in balance, you're actually not in harmony at all. Your terrain is on the edge, on the edge, on the edge. That can be some thrill in that from time to time. But constantly on the edge takes its toll. And it also means that anything can trigger you and push you off the edge. And so curveballs have a massive impact on you when you're attempting to balance. So the terrain vibrations are greatly impacted in the quest for balance. Harmony means stuff can occur and it can be like water off a duck's back. I'm going to go forward with, so, vibrations of your terrain, internal and external, is really important. With your gut, because your gut is connected to every organ, and in its connection, it is connected because the nutrients it absorbs through the gut, they go and nurture and feed those different organs. So if your gut is blocked, then that organ isn't receiving the nurturing. That's a really important piece to understand and know. The third culprit is lack of forward movement. So if you look at just the functionality of the gut as a muscle, right? It begins with the ascending colon, right? Against gravity. And you can imagine that ascension of material, some of it you're going to absorb and some of it you're going to excrete. If it is not moving forward, you in no time at all, you will actually, have a highly toxic environment within your body, and that can take this human body away very, very rapidly. So the natural state of the gut is its peristalsis is designed for forward movement. At any stage where there is a disconnect, so if you're holding on to anger, if you're holding on to deep upset, if you're holding on to, being anxious about something or being overprotective or allowing yourself to feel that, you love someone so much that you just can't stand anything upsetting them, those sort of extreme situations, feelings, thoughts take you out of harmony, and they prevent the forward movement. You become so attached to something that you can't move forward. So the way you can diagnose the disconnect and the problem that you might be having in the gut, if you feel there's something that you want to do, but you're not able to because of either no money or too much money or a lot of reputation and a lot at stake, but you're not able to move forward. If you're not able to move forward mentally, you're actually having a direct impact on your gut's ability to move the stuff within it forward. So lack of forward movement for yourself, usually shown in the form of choices you make for yourself, where you might choose to compromise. Oh, can't really talk about that right now, so I'll compromise. You are directly impacting the gut because you disconnect from the gut. You take that power of natural peristalsis that allows the stuff to move forward in the gut. You literally are taking the power away from that. You're depleting it. Lack of forward movement in your gut has a whole host of physiological conditions, from irritable IBS to severe constipation and all forms of acidity and toxins and all sorts of stuff that has in terms of the makeup of your entire body. So your diagnosis is on your choices. Am I able to move forward in this situation? If I'm not, it's impacting, you're disconnecting yourself from the gut. It's a culprit. You've heard me talk about how the earth is moving around the sun at 18,000 miles an hour, and it's also rotating around itself. So the entire, cosmos is very engaged in forward movement. Doing something that prevents us from moving forward is a very unnatural act. And it disconnects you from the gut. And you can just visualize your gut not moving the stuff up the ascended colon and the transverse and descending and getting it out of your stuff. When stuff doesn't move forward in your gut, a whole host of conditions develop.
But it probably has a lot to do with your wanting things to be status quo and not open to growing, to going forward as, to growing in your life,
Yeah, I mean, it could be that you feel safe where you are, you're comfortable, you're set in this way. So you don't really want to destabilize that. But there'll be so many parts of you that actually will be discomforted. Physically you may be comfortable, mentally you may be comfortable, but physically you're not comfortable. Or emotionally, and hence this whole piece about people staying in toxic relationships for so long, it's that lack of forward movement. Because they feel, okay, at least, it's a devil we know.
So all of this is about really
direct impact on the gut, direct impact on the gut.
all of this is about really listening to how you're feeling in each moment, listening to your gut, how you feel.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that it's such a physiological object that it gets you to notice it. It doesn't stay quiet. It makes sure you notice. And you have to work hard at ignoring it. That's the interesting part. And we do work hard at ignoring it, and that's where things become, you feel that knot in your stomach and all sorts of stuff start to develop.
And it's also like a lack of honesty with yourself, which even throws it off even more.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the fourth culprit is ignoring your gut instinct. The gut is a custodian of your inner wisdom. I was like, there's a period of time in my own evolution where I connected to every part of our body in its cellular construct, including the connections between the cells and all of that. I could literally see how all of this shows up. And I was so amazed about the gut that, and that's where this understanding that the gut is the third brain really anchored in me. That here we are, it is truly a human miracle. How amazing even, awesome and amazing, where we are birthed with something called the gut. And all the wisdom that we have amassed over the years, over various soul journeys, is in the gut. We are born with it. And the gut is connected to every organ. And it nourishes and nurtures those organs. And it is constantly in a state of forward movement. So it is like, wow, whatever might occur, whatever we may think, or however distressed we may be, the gut still holds the inner wisdom that we were born with. Now, when you start ignoring your gut instinct, then what happens is you don't lose your inner wisdom, it's still there. It just becomes atrophied as a muscle function that squirts out your inner wisdom from time to time in the form of gut instinct. That muscle function becomes atrophied in the gut. So as a result, your human body, which is truly a miracle, designed to autocorrect and auto-heal itself, is not able to be as efficient as it is designed to be. It begins in the gut. And it can actually be transformed simply by, and you could literally do like a gut instinct. Instead of a detox, it could be the gut instinct toning weekend, where you take particular situations in your life. This is what I did. I literally said, okay, I'm going to take 4 major milestone moments in my life that have occurred in the past. And given that the gut holds the inner wisdom, and it actually would have had various instinctive communications with me, which I probably just ignored. I'm going to be able to access those even now. So I took an incident and then I went into, okay, what was my gut instinct at that time even? You'll be surprised. You always knew how something is likely to turn out. It was our mental thoughts that might have overridden it at that time. But by just reconnecting and reestablishing that beautiful bond of trust with your gut instinct, you actually get your gut to find a harmonious flow within itself. And that gets the gut to start functioning well. By you just reconnecting to that gut instinct. I took, okay, these are some choices that I am to make in the next week. What is my gut instinct telling me about that? I have been advised in this way from 4 different places, and I feel it's the right thing for me to do. What is my gut saying? So, like proactively, I just took it on for the purposes of re-establishing that reconnection to my gut. This is a very important thing for you to take on because, the moment you reestablish and reconnect to your gut instinct, you have invoked and acknowledged and activated your own inner wisdom. And the gut immediately starts to send those vibrations and messages to the different organs. And your inner wisdom is where the originating intent of each organ is held. So it activates an autocorrection in the different organs in your body. And then if you're left, after all of that, you might be left with a few things, points of discomfort or disease that require to be addressed in other ways. You can bring in, traditional medicine to support you in that. But, you work with the gut, get that reconnection with the gut going. And the gut instinct, by acknowledging it as opposed to ignoring it, and acknowledging it not just mentally, but in actually doing something proactive about it, you are restoring that reconnection to the gut.
And getting back to what you were talking about before, the last few sessions about the connective tissue. Absolutely. Having that awareness and that trust in your gut will actually help to restore or replace what your connective tissue holds on to. Yeah. Your emotions over the years and all of that, and trauma and all of that. So over to you, Helene and David, to conclude our session. Anything you want to say to conclude it?
Well, I think it's really interesting to realize that these inner culprits are present and active, and one needs to be awake to see that that's happening. Be aware. Yeah. And it can be very easy to pass over them. Very true. If you're surrounding yourself by people who are not supportive of what you're doing, one needs to watch what is happening inside, or you can just miss it. You can just I think the thing to remember is, people are people, and even something like they are not supportive is a meaning we give it. So you started the gut disconnection. Right.
Well, they are the way they are, and in their way of not being proactive in supporting us, they are actually supporting us.
In
Because
their own,
they're actually propelling us to move forward.
yes.
Right. So just being mindful of that, being mindful of the words we use. Remember, there is never anything you need to do, or you have to do, or you must do. Everything is a function of your choice. I choose to. I choose. I tell my grandkids and my son. I heard my son say this first, actually. They would say, I cannot, no, I cannot do this. He says, well, what about say, I choose not, I choose not, I choose not. And then it's, no, but I do choose. Oh, there you go then. Have a go with it. And they realized that they could do it, what they were thinking that they could not do. So one of the powerful way of maintaining that gut connection is to literally transform our language, as I choose to. I choose to stay at home. I choose to not participate in this right now. As opposed to, I need to be somewhere else, so therefore I can't do this. Well, no, you choose not to. That's fine. The moment we start honoring our own worthiness, you come back to that beautiful connection to your gut, which is a custodian of your inner wisdom.
I just want to say one last thing. Out of the four, what'd you call them?
Culprits.
Culprits.
The four culprits. I think that like the first three, having knowing about the full spectrum effect that your gut has on your whole system and all your organs, and also knowing about the vibration of your terrain, and knowing about how important it is to have forward movement in your life and all that. I think that those first three are more of an awareness that you need to have. And the last one, I think, is one of the most important of all the four, and that is ignoring your gut. If you ignore your gut, that's where that's where you're just allowing your system to go astray.
Yeah. And when you ignore your gut instinct is where you say, I have to do this. I need to do this. I'm not going to follow my gut instinct. I'm going to, I have to do that instead. That's the start of the have tos, and the disconnect sets in.
So you have to be honest with your feelings. That's what it boils down to.
No have to.
No, you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything.
You just sit there.
And in the scheme of it all, nothing really matters anyway.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Work with this. It's a big one. It's quite deep. You can literally just take each one and spend days or even weeks on it, and it'll make such a huge difference to your gut reconnection.
Thank you for the honor of asking us to be the host tonight.
Yes.
Welcome.
You have a great trip back. Awesome.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks for being on. Love you all.
Love you. Bye.